All right, let's see what we got in here. Oh man, look at all that belt. Woo! Dang. Dude, where's the rest of it? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the LRT Outpost. And as you can see, our CVT belt has left the chat. I want to go over tire options in this video so you don't repeat the same mistake that I did and resulting in grenading your CVT belt. So I want to go over a few things that I've learned that I really wish I knew ahead of time. Would have saved me some money and just some trial and error when picking tires for your specific build. The first thing, which might seem a little obvious, is what is your intentions? Like, what is your main riding habits? What is your main riding areas, I guess would be a better way to say that. Where you're going to primarily spend the most of your time. That'll help you pick something that's going to be the most effective and also the best fit for your vehicle. It may even be a good option, maybe have a couple different sets of tires. Just if you have a couple of different ranges of places you go, that's going to be my thing, is I'm going to have a couple different sets, street legal set, mud, and then probably like some kind of harder terrain, hard pack, rock crawler style tire as well. So unfortunately, you're not going to find a tire that just is perfect in every scenario. But typically, if you have a range of where you ride at, but you just want to stick with kind of one set of tire, you're going to look for what would be an all-terrain. But when you come with side-by-sides and ATVs, all-terrain has a couple of different meanings. Typically, you would think like a truck or what I'm a street-friendly style all-terrain. But when I'm talking about a UTV or side-by-side, I'm talking about something kind of similar to this. This is an ITP Blackwater. They are a little bit more aggressive, as you can tell, about 1-inch lugs. These are pretty worn down because they may or may not have taken a couple pavement drifts. But these have done really well. They've been very surprising in mud. I've rock crawled in them, sandy situations, trail road. They are a little bit vibraty at slower speeds, again, because they're kind of luggy. Got these deep voids for self-cleaning. They do pretty good at that. So this type of tire will get you pretty good grip in most scenarios while still giving you the benefits of a bit of a smoother ride. You still get a little bit more aggressive than like what I would call a street tire or kind of a truck style all-terrain or mud terrain, while also still being fairly lightweight. That's another important factor. We'll get to that in a little bit. But this is just a good kind of all-around tire. I think the Bighorns are another popular kind of style tire that are pretty decent like that. Now, what I mean by a street friendly or truck style all-terrain, I'm talking about something like this. This is a GBC TerraMaster. So pretty decent voids in the lugs. Lugs just a little shy of a 1/2 inch. But you still get kind of that smooth ride. These are DOT compliant, so it will last longer if you drive a lot of pavement. That's something to take into consideration if you drive on pavement or hard pack, something like that a lot. They'll wear fast, so you kind of want something, you know, that'll hold up to that. I haven't really tested out a whole lot. They still drift pretty good, so that's nice. But as far as really putting them to the test in any kind of like rocky scenario or sand or mud or anything, haven't really gotten a chance to really test them out yet. As you can see, we destroyed the belt. So this type of tire will generally last a little bit longer due to its harder compound, especially if they're DOT compliant. Well, at least generally speaking, they're usually a harder compound. Less aggressive lugs, so typically a smoother ride, more of a contact patch, more of a contact surface. So generally harder terrain, you're going to get a little bit better grip. Again, that is going to be tire dependent, obviously, as well. But plus, they just kind of look cool. It does give side by side just a whole different look. You'll also have available like a truck or street friendly style mud terrain. That was more of an all-terrain. So like your Carnivores and your System 3 XTRs, a little bit deeper lugs. So you do get more rubber, more weight. Again, we'll go over why that's important. But you do get more of a aggressive tire while still not being as aggressive as what I'm going to call like your ATV or UTV mud tires. Now, this is a totally different class of tire. These are like your big, deep, like tractor tires, like your BKTs, your Outlaws, your Assassinators, were big 2-inch plus lugs, huge voids for clearing out mud. The ones that you see these giant Bills riding around on doing these bounty hole stuff. That's a totally different class. Now those things are awesome in mud, but some people will say they don't ride bad, but I don't think they ride great. But I think some are better than others as far as the ride quality goes, but they're normally kind of choppy and kind of rough and hard stuff. But man, they get you through everything else. But relatively speaking, anyways, those type of tires are usually pretty heavy. And in my opinion, they don't really handle that great. But man, if you primarily are just trying to ride through mud and stuff, then there's no other choice. Just go ahead and go with something like that. Now, what I had previously been on is what I'm going to call like your designated like rock crawler tire. Now, these are your Rockzillas. These are a 32. Went a little overkill on the tires. As you can see, that wasn't a great idea. Get to that. But, I mean, these are the stickies. So, I mean, look, you can like, look at that. You can touch the lugs together. How crazy is that? So they are uber soft. So with that super soft compound, I mean, as you can imagine, you get super grip in rock crawl situations, but it's probably not going to last very long on pavement. If you do a lot of pavement riding, these things will probably get bald real quick. Also, you get a lot of sidewall flex. When I was running these, if you're cruising down the road and you go to turn, it's almost like a body roll effect because again, that super soft compound. I do think the ply of the tire too, the TerraMasters were an 8-ply. I'm not quite sure what these are, but I do think that also plays a role in that as well. But again, just that super soft compound, when you can turn, you can see you get a lot of like sidewall, like flex and roll a little bit. So it can feel a little sketchy. And also lots of contact surface here, but very little voids. So probably not going to self-clean very good and do well in super muddy situations, but that's not what they're for. They are strictly like a rock crawl tire, but they suffer the same fate as the bigger mud tires. They're heavy, generally speaking, especially when you go to a super soft compound, and you get even heavier, more rubber to more weight. And I know I've mentioned weight several times, so that brings me to my next point when you're trying to pick a set of tires for your build. The weight matters. You can look up most of these tire weights, at least an estimated weight. Sometimes you can look at your shipping weight. That will give you kind of a rough idea. But weight does play a big role because it robs power. Generally speaking, more rubber, more weight. So that also exponentiates with the rotation though. So what I mean by that is like that inertia of that centrifugal force of turning the tire over. It may be like let's say it's a 5-pound increase on the tire. It's really with that rotational mass, it's actually more of like an 8-pound or something like that weight difference or weight increase. Don't take my word for it. I'm an idiot, but you can look it up. It's rotational mass effects on power loss in a drive line or something along those lines. And you should come across some interesting stuff. I had to educate myself on it, but I'd always known that the additional weight, you were going to have to make up for that if you wanted to maintain similar power than what you had before you did the tire change. So this was where CVT clutch kits come into play. You got gear reductions, things of that nature. So that's what I've always focused on. Now, while that is true, but it's not the only factor at play. And I feel really dumb for overlooking this, but it makes total sense. So this brings us to the point in the video where I show you my recipe of how to turn your belt into powder. Oh no, there's some still wrapped around. Well, that's what's left of the belt. Great. So what happened is these razors come from the factory with a 27-inch Dirt Commander, kind of an all-terrain style tire. I switched up to the Blackwater Evolutions. They're a 28, not a huge increase, and those Avos are pretty lightweight for the most part. So did fine. We tuned the razor, BMP tune. I do have a video on that if you'd like to check that out. I'll do a little tag for you. So we felt good with the tune, and I wanted to step up my build with the razor here. So my goal was to get to a 32-inch tire. So after the tune, I felt like I had enough power that maybe I could find something that would at least give me an idea of what 32s would feel like. And I got on some Facebook Marketplace, which is the worst drug on the planet. But anywho's. And I found these Rockzillas at a pretty good price. 32, that's a real hefty jump from a 28 to a 32. And I knew they were heavy, so I was expecting some power loss. And that's exactly what I noticed. I did test ride them over at a local Jeep event. They had a nice obstacle course out there. But for the most part, did okay at first. And then I noticed some slipping, some engagement problems, burnt belt smell, no smoking, thankfully, somehow or another. But I knew at the minimum I had glazed the belt. We'll post a video to that as well if you'd like to check that out. The obstacle course was pretty cool. It was one of my first videos that I did, so I did film that on my phone. So now I have a GoPro, so we're moving on up. But if you like that sort of stuff, hit that subscribe for me. It does help the channel grow, just so I can keep doing this sort of thing. It's been a lot of fun. But after noticing that, I started doing some research. I was like, okay, we got a problem other than just the weight. I knew the weight was an issue, but what do I need to do to get to 32s, basically, is what I was trying to figure out, other than a gear reduction. The truth is, what I learned is there isn't. So after talking to some people that are smarter than me in the industry, shout out to Todd at HunterWorks. He's been a wealth of knowledge on these CVT clutches for me. Been very vital in my education here recently. I will give them a little tag in the description or somewhere, just give them their props, because he's been super helpful with this. The problem with the CVT clutches, not only is the weight a factor, the tire size itself, and it's just makes so much sense. It was right in front of my face and I totally missed it. But the tire size, these clutches are designed from the factory for a specific size. When you increase that size, then you are essentially like throwing your gearing off. The problem with that is that the CVT clutch kits, they are not, they can't do but so much. Todd has a really good video. I'll see if I can post a link to that. And he describes it as like putting your truck in like tow haul mode. Like the clutch kit kind of helps a little bit, but there's a certain extent to where it can't, it's maxed out. Like you're not going to get any more benefit out of the clutch kit. You're going to have to go to a gear reduction. So I compromised and went down in size to these 31 by 10 TerraMasters. Now again, I only just went down 1 inch, and Todd, if you ever happen to see this video, don't get mad. I'm going somewhere with this, just hang on. Not only do you need to pay attention to the weight of the tire, how much of a size increase that you're making, and that is dependent on the vehicle too, what the factory clutching is capable of, but also, if you've done any type of buying of multiple sets of tires, you have figured out that these tires are not measuring true across the board. Not even close. Some manufacturers are better than others, but the sizes themselves, just because they say it's a certain size, it does not mean it's actually going to measure that way. And for example, 31 by 10 by 14 TerraMaster that I switched to is only measuring on the tape barely 30 inches. They're actually a little bit under 30 inches, and I'm not even going to run 15 PSI in them. I'm probably going to run like 10, so that'll give even smaller. And the width is supposed to be a 10. They're only measuring at 9, barely a 9. So they don't measure exactly as advertised. For another example, these big old honking Rockzillas. They're a 32, but they only measured at 30 and a half with the weight of the vehicle on it, and the width is supposed to be a 10, but they measure at an 11. Now, some of that width is probably due to some of the side lug, a little bit more aggressive there, and that softer compound, maybe the weight of the vehicle was causing the tire to like kind of bulge outward. But just for an example, you can just look at multiple sets of tires, measure them, even measure the ones that you got. You'd probably be surprised at how much of a variance there is in the advertised size and the actual true size of the tire. So in reality, I'm only looking at maybe around 2.5-ish neighborhood inch size increase. Now, yes, I am kind of tiptoeing that 2-inch rule of thumb we were talking about earlier, but also I've lost a substantial amount of weight. These fat boys right here are 46 pounds apiece. The TerraMasters are weighing in at 36 pounds apiece. That's a 10-pound weight loss on all 4 corners. 40 pounds total, plus even more with that rotational mass effect we were talking about earlier. That's a pretty substantial weight loss on a small vehicle and should definitely be noticeable. And boy, was it. When we made the switch to the TerraMasters, we got our snappiness back. We were able to power slide and drift the Razor around, and it felt pretty similar to how it did when we had the 28s on it. Well, at least poof, the belt went. But I mean, that was damage done previously. So I think with the decrease in the size, the decrease in the weight, and we also went ahead and got us a brand new HunterWorks belt. Between those changes, I'm hoping that's going to put us back into a more acceptable operating range as far as our tire combo on the side-by-side. Now, our target's still going to be 32s, but we'll get there eventually. But again, I just want to give Todd a shout out at HunterWorks. He did not have to take the time out of his day to email and educate me on this sort of stuff, but he was a big help. You guys should go check them out. Not a sponsor at all, but hunterworks.com. They do have a YouTube as well. I will tag them in the description. Now I will be doing a video on that belt install. I'm going to take these clutches apart. I got to fish the rest of this black spaghetti and belt shrapnel out of here. But I really hope this helps somebody. I know this video is a little boring, a lot of talking going on, but I hope that this helps somebody not make the mistake I did. And it helps you pick a tire, at least kind of get you started so you don't have to do as much trial and error as I did. But if you like this sort of thing, you want to follow along in that clutch video, then make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos, and I will catch you guys in the next one.